Hello everyone. I've been asked to do a presentation on family and personal finance in 10 minutes. However, this is a very complex topic and I will try as much as possible to do my best to see how much areas uh, we'll be able to cover today. The goal of this presentation is to help us in setting and getting our priorities right as individuals and families when it comes to finance. Let me warn from the onset that you may not agree with everything that I will say today, but you can at least listen with an open mind and modify the information to suit your own situation and personal needs. Now let's get started. The first thing that I would advise or recommend is for us to align our individual personal short and long-term goals and those of our family goals. So we have the husband, we have the wife, then we also have the kids. This comprise the family. But as individual husbands and as individual wives, or even as kids, we may have our individual goals. We must, as much as possible, try to harmonize these goals and make them family goals using great communication skill, family love, and unity. These are all the tools that we can use to harmonize our collective goals. The next step is for us to use a budget. And what is a budget? A budget is simply a roadmap to our various destinations. So where are we going? Where do we want to be? How do we get there? These are some of the things that a good budget will help us to address. Next, when it comes to budget, I usually recommend that we try as much as possible to write it down. If it's not written, it's most likely not to be achieved. So write your budget down and also have separate bank accounts for the following. Number one, we have emergency funds. Emergencies happen all the time. We need finance to be able to respond. Two, have an account or a separate budget line for children's education. Sometimes we want to think that time is very far. Say a child that is born today probably will get to university in the next 18, 19, or even 20 years. And sometimes in Nigeria, even earlier. We must start to plan the very day a baby is born. Then we should have a plan for our retirement. Have a plan for special projects like houses, building of houses, family houses, businesses, donations, and also have a plan or a separate account for consumption. Now, we can never and we should never have the same account that combines everything. So emergency fund, children's education, retirement, special education, and your day-to-day bank account should never be combined. Never. And again, when it comes to education, retirement plans, emergency funds, and special projects, we should not treat them in isolation. All these things happen basically almost on an ongoing basis as we evolve or as we live here on earth. So, as many of us are at the point of our life, we may think that retirement is far away. No. Set a particular amount in a dedicated account that you have to keep for retirement. That's just an example. Same applies to others. Now, what are the tools we could use? I've mentioned separate bank account. We could also use automatic deposit. For example, I could say I want to put $100 or 1,000 naira or 10,000 naira aside for my retirement. Start small when it comes to each of those categories. Start and be disciplined and stubborn about it. So if I'm saving 5,000 naira for my retirement, that amount, I want to be stubborn about it. I don't want to go in and use it for emergency. I don't want to go in and use it for consumption. These are just examples which in real life really matters. Do not be misled by a single saving or investment account without a purpose. Some of us or some people will say, yes, I have a bank account, I have savings, I have my checking. What's the purpose of that checking account? It must be specific. What is the purpose of your savings account? What is the purpose of your investment account? You have to define it. If you don't, then the money can't be taken by any of those things that I just mentioned. It can be taken by emergency fund, it can be taken by children's education, it can be taken by retirement, by consumption most likely, and by special project. Next, spend less than what you earn. The essence of budgeting is to even know how much we earn. How much do you earn? Yes, how much do you earn? We must know how much we earn and then record our expenses and make sure we don't spend more than we earn. Two ways to create wealth. We can increase our expenses. We can increase our income and reduce our expenses. Then the positive net effect we add to our wealth creation. Or we can remain where we are in terms of income, then make sure our expenses don't grow over and above our income. Because when that happens, all we are doing is to deepen ourselves into poverty. Budget for anticipated income, but never spend in anticipation of income or gifts. It may never come. Those gifts or income may never come. Or what you expected as income or gift may be less than what you get. So I may say, I'm going to get a salary increase of 2% or 3% or whatever percent by next year. Now, what should I do? I should allocate that increase, the additional income, to those classes. So my retirement, my consumption, my education, and my special project. And once that money comes, because I already know the purpose of that money, I'll be able to use it wisely. In the contrary, we should never spend in anticipation of income. So using the same example, I should not go spending, hoping that my salary will be increased by next year, or I may get some gifts from friends or family members in the coming year. Next, plan and budget for windfall like gifts, salary increase, and bonuses. These are specific examples that I just talked about. Next, avoid impulse buying. Do not buy what you don't need to please your own emotion or to please other people. Before you buy something, think and think again. It is not being stupid, it is just being financially literate. Because sometimes we act out of impulse, just like when there is fear of fire or war, we instinctively react In the same way, sometimes out of instinct, we may see something and want to buy, or we may be pushed to like something to buy, whereas we may not actually need those things. So avoid impulse buying. Plan for your purchases. Next, know the difference between bad debt and a good debt. So borrowing is good. Borrowing is also bad. Good debt will help you to grow. It can accelerate your growth. It can make you to grow financially faster or to create wealth faster. Bad debts are those debts that don't add to our earnings. So debts that you use for consumption, for example, I want to buy a recharge card, I want to buy a dress, I want to buy a car, I want to buy a big house that does not generate income. Those are not good debt. But debt that you use for business or for capital projects that will give you returns that are higher than the interest and the capital on the debt itself are good debts.